Good Tuesday to you, everybody in Gov 603. Welcome to week kaboom 7. Almost to the halfway point. Hey, hang on. Little coffee here for the early afternoon in the Craving Wilderness Cup. But I don't know about you, but come spring break for me, I'm going to be deep gone somewhere on a trail. Refreshing the spirit. Okay, let's take a look at what we're going to do this week, week number 7, and then I want to talk to you a little teeny bit about your papers. All right. So this week is a lighter week. You only have 2 chapters to read, and what I want you to do, and what I've set up by way of the discussion discussion questions, excuse me, is to get you to think about how to approach certain sections of research. Okay, so read Pauner and Howard, chapter 5 in both of them. So you're going to read 2 chapters, and then go to the discussion sections. As I said it again, the discussion questions. All right, and I ask you things like, what is an analytical narrative? Right, that's one way to say approach how you write up a paper. I'm also going to ask you to think a little bit about your methodology sections, okay? Because in Pauner, at the end of chapter 5, what you're gonna find is that there are a list of pointers, tips as to how to write a methodology section. What I would like you to do is to answer those points. So yes, I'm doing this. I know I'm doing that. Using your methodology section as the one that you're writing up for your paper, right? So we're sort of looking at how it is that we both do the research and then present the research, because this is where research will stand or fall in these 2 areas. Number 1, is it executed properly? Is it a random sample? Is it is enough data collected to be applied validly to external validity? Okay, those sorts of things that we've been going over. And then the other question is, how is it that you present your information? Because you can have good research with good data, and if you can't write it up and get it out there, that's of no use to you. You can have great writing and presentation skills, but if it's poor research with sloppy data, no use to you. So they're bookends, those 2 skills. So again, now say in Howard, okay, go to the end of chapter 5, and under practice building, answer one of the questions, and I want you to answer it within the context of how you might conduct, whether it's the completion of this research proposal or future proposals, research proposals. Okay, that's what we're up to this week by way of the readings, and what I want you to get from them. Okay. I am grading your papers. I'm, somewhere near halfway through. I'll have them done by the end of the week, the weekend. I'll go over some of this again, but I wanted to give you some feedback now. Right now, and here's what you're going to find when you open up your graded paper from me. If I'm making a comment about something that you're doing more than once, so if it's twice, this is an indicator to you that you need to fix this issue throughout. So if there are grammatical issues, and actually, by the way, there hasn't been a lot of them so far, so that's good. Just the basic construction of how it is we put together a sentence to express a thought is important. Okay, that has not been thus far, about halfway through, a major issue. what you're gonna see from me is I'll highlight the text. I may ask you a question about the text, or I may say, hey, you can't do it like that. You've got to do it like this. Okay. And if you see that more than once, so I may be pointing to that specific example. This needs to be changed. But if you see it more than once, look for that throughout your paper and then make the change accordingly. Okay. So some of the areas that are coming forward, things I want you to watch out for as you redo this section number 1 as part of your doing section number 2. Now, this section number 2, the whole paper isn't due until way towards the end of the semester. So you've got like all of March, since this is a leap year, there's like 29 days in April. So you've got a whole bunch of time to work on this. Okay. So number 1, you've got to remember citations. All right. Unless the thing that you're pointing out is so commonly known and obvious, like the sky is blue, you have to have a cite, somebody that says so. In research, it's not good enough that we say so. Now, I'm going to use some specific examples of what I'm talking about, but I am not picking on anybody. This, they just come when I keep a sheet of things. Okay, everybody watch out for this. And then as the examples jump forward, they get put on the sheet. So it's not focused on any one person. All right. So if you hear me reading from your paper, I'm not picking on you. Okay. So here, this is from one of your papers. The lack of trust among minority populations towards government institutions undermines social cohesion, democratic governance, and effective policymaking. Okay, interesting statement. What's your citation for that? Where, and what I mean by citation is in effect, what we're asking for is where is the evidence that says lack of trust among minority populations towards government, and it's really governmental institutions. There's a grammar problem here. Governmental institutions undermine social cohesion, democratic governance, and effective policymaking. Where, what says who? Where you need it? You when you're making a statement, about something, say, well, this is a fact. You need citation. All right. In making your statements, avoid sweeping statements and especially cliches. Okay. Again, I'm not picking on anybody, but here's one as an example. There's been a growing political divide in the United States, which has led to polarization and increasing social tensions surrounding national elections. Okay. First of all, if you look at the political history of the United States, there's always been political tensions. The history, the design of the governance of the United States is hardwired for tension. The originators of our government designed a government that was designed to be so contentious with itself that it would tie itself into a knot. The early Americans believed that the government that governed least governed best, and the best thing that a government could do is just stay out of the citizens' way. And knowing human nature, those who designed our government knew that this you just couldn't put into a document. The purpose of this government is to not govern, is to stay out of people's way. And those who got into government would go, oh, well, okay, I guess our purpose is just to stay out. People are people. And they're when placed in positions of power, they seek to increase their power. That is a human characteristic. It's not specific to any culture, ethnicity, or gender. It's human. So how do you solve that? Well, you set up a government with an odd number of entities you break it into threes. All right. The legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. You give them equal powers, and you give them overlapping roles. So the one, say, legislative, is always arguing with the other, say, executive, that's always being checked and arguing with the third, judicial. And those three go around and around and around, and they argue with each other. And guess what? The designers of the system wanted them to get done as little as possible, to stay away from you. So this is a cliche statement, okay? And you want to avoid, I mean, cliches because they don't do anything for your writing, but they tend to make you look uninformed in your subject matter. And if you don't know that the design of our government is to be polarizing, it's set up that way. And in fact, by way of polarization, it's been a lot worse in this country. I mean, up to the point where people started shooting at each other. So, these sort of, oh, we're all fighting now and it's worse than it's ever been, or the polarization is increasing. Okay, number one, a citation. What source do you have that says that we're more divided? And I'm not saying there isn't one. I'm just saying, where is it? We're more divided now than we have been. And then number two, why is this problematic to a system that was designed to be contentious, to be combative? That's actually the system. People complain that government's not getting anything done. That's our system working. Okay, so avoid stuff like that. Okay. And when you're, avoiding cliches and sweeping statements, be specific in describing your research. Be specific about time, place, populations, specific issues. So here's another one again, not picking on anybody. This was just, where I was at when I was identifying this issue. The purpose of this research design is to investigate the reasons behind minority distrust in government and governmental institutions. Okay. Minority? What minority? Which one? So are you saying that, and we define minority how? By a percentage of the population? Are women a minority that make up 51% of the population? All right. Do, say, Americans that are of Mexican descent have the same view towards government as, say, those who are of Cuban descent? Okay. And when we say government, what governmental institutions? Do you mean like federal Congress, or do you mean like a local dog catcher? Okay. Be specific. And the reason that you want to be specific is for your own sake as a researcher. Look, it's not only okay, it's actually expected that when you research, you're looking at really a very narrow slice of the pie. You cannot write everything about everything. You can't do it. You only have so many pages and so many words. I mean, even if you're writing, I'm just looking for a book here. Even if you're writing a book, all right, you still, writing stuff up is really an exercise in what you leave out. You can't pour the whole ocean, everything about everything into a coffee cup. You cannot pour all the information about a topic into a 15-page paper. Can't be done. Be specific. Okay. And then, of course, because you're being specific, this means you don't have to run around and say something about everything, which you don't have space and time for anyway. Be good to yourself. Okay. So in being specific and avoiding cliches and sweeping statements and having citations for your stuff, don't overwrite your work. And what do I mean by overwrite? Good writing is not necessarily complicated or high flown or full of all sorts of, multiple syllabic words, syllables in words. No, it's straightforward, and even in research, and it's clear. So, for instance, let me read you this following sentence again. Not picking on anybody. One variable connected to numerous empirical studies conclude that college-educated Americans have a higher likelihood to engage in the political process than those with less education. Okay. Could we simplify how we were saying what we want to say here? Okay. How about, studies studies suggest, and then there's a citation because, what studies are we talking about? That college-educated Americans vote more often than those who don't have a college education. Boom. If that's what we're trying to get at, okay? Don't overwrite your writing. You don't have to. That's not what makes scholarly work, okay? As I finish the other half of your papers, I may add some to this list, and I'll pick that up next time. But the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is even though I still have about half of your papers to go, I want you, watch. I know when I post something on Canvas, you should get a little note. In fact, everybody look at your papers. If I haven't graded it yet, it's coming soon. If I have, and you have a note on there from me, that's, I'll give you a score, and then I may do one of two things. I'll say, if you want to talk about this, I'm available to talk. That means it's up to you. If I say, let's connect by phone to discuss your paper, that means you need to reach out to me. You can reach out to me by email. Let's use the email in Canvas. It just makes it a lot easier for me to keep track of everything. Or you can just call me during my office hours. All right. But that means there is something here that catches my eye enough that I need to talk to you about it before you go on and start working on part 2 of your papers. And nobody's in trouble. That's not what we're about here in the class. Okay. We're trying to sharpen our skills. But there might be, something that I'm like, hey, I bet we could shortcut the route to skill sharpening here if we could just talk for 15 or 20 minutes. That's what the note means. But if you get one of those notes, you gotta reach out and get a hold of me. Okay. All right. So in addition to the 2 chapters, remember, keep studying for the exam. I've reposted the review sheet in week 7 module. It's also posted in week 6. So if you didn't get it from week 6, you'll see it now in week 7. And again, I'll say it again. The way to do this is to go back, start rereading the discussion questions, make sure that you understand all the terms, make sure that you could apply them in a way that you could discuss, not just straightforward sort of flashcard definition. I mean, that's a good place to start, but make sure that you can conceptualize and articulate in your mind. Okay. And remember, the book is closed notes, closed books, closed internet, none of that stuff. Okay, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Okay. Again, check to see if your paper has been graded. I will finish the rest of them this week. And if you got a note on there from me saying, let's connect, let's connect. Okay, everybody. I think about you. I pray about you. And I hope you have a fantastic week. And I will see you on Canvas. Bye-bye.